I am really excited for this one, and you guys know it's kind of a month long since I dropped my last video. So in this tutorial, we're going to be building a class management application. But before you proceed to watch, please do make sure you hit that like button and also the subscribe button so that YouTube can show this video to a whole lot of people that are willing to learn React.js, Node.js, and MySQL tutorial. So like I said, we are going to be building a class management application where a teacher or an instructor can be able to create and manage courses, create and manage classes, as well as create and manage students. So right here, you can't see anything because we've not yet created a course. Even if I refresh, you can see we don't have any other thing showing, and we're going to be using MySQL, just like I mentioned. So whenever I go over to my localhost PHP my admin, you're going to see the class management database, and we have classes, courses, and students. And each of these have their roles, like the student ID, the unique ID of the students, as well as the name and other information. Likewise, the courses and also the classes. So we are using MySQL, and here you could see we don't have a course, and even in our localhost, sorry, in our PHP my admin or in our MySQL database, we don't have a course. I'm going to quickly create a course. So let's say I'm going to create English language. I'm going to create that, and immediately it's going to create a course, and it's going to bring us to the courses link where we can see a list of courses. So I'm going to click on that course to see the details of the course. You could see the name and the course students. So right here, because we don't have any students, we can't see any student, but the students assigned to this course will be showing here. And each of these managed courses, classes, and students are going to have full CRUD functionality, which is create, read, update, and delete. So if we go back to manage courses, over here you could see we can update this English course. So we can say English language course. So once I update it, it's going to say, I think this assign students. So I think we just made a little bit of mistake. So this is supposed to be assigned student to this course, but because we don't have any students, we don't see anything yet. So just pardon what you see here. It's as a result of my previous data I did put down. So I think they are making use of local storage. So for manage classes, you can't see any class. You can only see create a class, and also for manage students, same thing. I'm going to quickly create a class before we create a student. So let's say I'm going to create primary 1. I'm going to quickly create that, and you could see when we click on primary 1, you could see number of students. We don't have any student yet, and we can also update this to primary 1 class. And I can quickly update that, and it's going to rename that immediately. And if we go over to our database and click on courses, you could see we have our courses, we have our classes as well. And now coming back here, we can now add a student. So I'm going to add, let's say, Johnson Harmony. I'm going to add 820, and you could see the course we created. So if we had like multiple courses, they will come out, and we can select the primary 1 class, and I will just add that student. When I add a student, it redirects us to students where I can see the list of students. So let me just go ahead and add one more student. So let me add Samuel, and let's say Samuel is 18 years old, and Samuel offers English as well. And Samuel is in primary 1 class. So I'm going to add Samuel again, and here you could see we have double students. So whenever I click on this student, you could see total number of courses, which is supposed to be 1, but we are seeing 2 because I think I didn't count this properly with the JavaScript. We are going to fix that. That's not an issue. And we can even update this student record. So let's say I just want to update name. I can just go ahead and update that to Samuel. And here you could see Samuel. And also if you want to remove the course, you can also update the age and also the class. And that's it. And let's just dive in. We are done with the introduction. So guys, I'm pretty happy for coming back. So one way to support this channel once more is to make sure you hit that like button and also the subscribe button, and let's dive in. So guys, before you proceed, please do make sure you go over to the GitHub repository on the description and grab the starter template. So this starter template already contains some configurations and also some installations with as well the React.js and the CSS, the Node.js. I'm just going to quickly go over that with our Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open the application there. And let's just give that some seconds. So right here, you can see inside our packet.json file, we do have config. And the config, it's used to read the config folder, although we are not using this in this tutorial. So don't think about that. You can still go ahead and get rid of it. But we have the .env, which we are going to be using to read the environmental variables we provided in this config.env file. And also we have the MySQL because we're using the MySQL database. Then we have the Node.js for compiling the CSS. And we have the Slugify to slugify our URLs. And also we have the UUID. Then for the dev dependencies, we have the concurrently which will help us run the server and the client together with any other script that we want to run. And then we have the nodemon, which will actually save to our server and also auto reload everything for us. So for the clients, we are using React.js. So over here, you could see we are using React.js and we are pretty much set to begin. So just go ahead and clone that and let's dive in. So pretty much we are going to be using Postman to actually use it to build our request, to build our APIs for our backend. So we're going to be using Postman to test all the requests. So it came out pretty wrong. I recorded the video. So right now I've forgotten a lot of things, even to pronounce a lot of things, but hopefully I'm back. I'm still going to flow along. I'm going to close all this. And the first thing we have to do is to create a folder called routes. And inside this folder, I'm going to create a file called courses. So this way our route is going to be. So first of all, I'm just going to bring down Express, which is going to require the Express. So if you clone this project, please do make sure you install it using the npm install command. So I'm going to rename this to courses. So we have to bring down the router, which is going to use the express the router. And we have to now export that module.export, which is the router. So we're going to be creating the courses routes immediately. So let's just do it gradually. We have the courses, the classes, and the students. So back here inside the server, I'm going to come over to this place in the use route, and we're going to use this slash, let's say /API /course. I'm going to require, we are using the routes, I think the routes folder /courses. So that's it for the courses. And inside here, first thing first is to make sure we bring down everything that we're going to need. So we're going to need the Slugify. So I think my tab 9 is helping me a lot. Then we also have to use the database. So the database is a file that we created inside this config folder. So if you check here, you're going to see the database file, and we're going to be using that to make use of the MySQL database. So let me just go ahead and require that before we show us how to use it. So this is not, sorry for that guys. So this is just to import this file, the database. So if you go over to this database, you could see we require the MySQL, and we made the create connection using the MySQL. And in case we do have an error, it's going to throw an error for us as we proceed to use this database file in our server, which is going to be making use of the file of the courses. The file over here is going to throw an error in case we have an error with database connection. So I also forgot to tell you about xampp. So xampp is what I'm actually using here to make use of the database. So I'm going to close this file, and back here, first of all, we are going to make a post request to create a student. So here we are going to be making a request. So it's kind of long. I used Postman. I think since March is when I use Postman. So we're going to be making a request to localhost 4000 slash the first one is going to be API slash course, which is going to create, and that's going to be a post request. So for the post request, we're going to set these headers to I think application type or content type, which is a value of application slash JSON. And for the body, we are now going to use the, I guess, the raw. It's kind of long. I use this, and we have to make sure that this is a JSON. So just go ahead and select this as a JSON. So let's say I'm going to send the name, and I'm going to say that this name is Samuel. So I'm just doing this for some test purpose. So even if we send this, nothing is going to happen because we've not yet linked anything here. So back in our server file, we already linked these courses, and here I can now say router.post, let's say /create, which is going to require the request and the response. So what we're going to be sending here is going to be the course name, and we are going to destructure that from the request body. So let's just go ahead and console.log that out. We just want to make sure everything is working perfectly so that we don't experience some errors. And I'm going to open the commander once again, and what you just simply have to do is to npm run dev. So when you use the npm run dev, it's going to use concurrently and run every single script that we put down in our script object. So let's just allow that, and I think we're kind of getting an error, so let's just kind of fix that. So before, let's just run npm run start. I just want to make sure our server is running before we run the client. Okay, our server is running perfectly, and I'm going to come over to Postman and send this. So if everything is working perfectly, we should be able to, that is 5,000, I think I'm using 4,000. And I'm going to send. So we are going to get in, I think, a 404 error, cannot post. And when we check in our commander, because Morgan is there, you could see we have a 404 error because we are not able to hit /API/course. And coming back to our server, this is where it is. We should be able to fix that here. And I think we should add /create and send again. And I think we are actually getting that. So right here you could see we have API/call/create. So right here we're gonna destructure everything that we are gonna need from our request body, which is the name, and we've gotten that name. So the next thing we have to do right now is to do a simple validation. So the tutorial is kind of boring, guys. The only thing I can say is just accept it, but frequently my tutorial is going to be exciting. So we can say if there is no name there, if nothing is sent, we just want to return a response.status of let's say a 400 with a JSON message of please enter a course name. So that's it, and we can break this down. So that's when we don't have a name, but in case anything, we don't have an error. So guys, one thing I forgot to mention is that when I save this right now, you could see we should have something like database connected. Okay, maybe probably because we are not yet using that, but I'm gonna say SQL for course. So let's say SQL, let SQL. First, we have to check if that course is in the database. Select star from course. Select everything from course where this log. and we want to check this with the slug. So we are going to slugify the name we are sending. So let's say we have a space. Let's say we have a course like machine learning and there's a little space there. We have to slugify it and use that to check the slug of other courses in the database. And the way you do that with MySQL is to add a question mark. Then also we have to create for insert. So we can say insert into courses, sets. We also have to put down a question mark. So it's kind of long. I use MySQL. MySQL is kind of boring. It's best to use like NoSQL database like MongoDB and any other relational MongoDB. Sorry, any other related to NoSQL database. So this is kind of long. And lastly, we have to slugify the name because we're gonna use that name to actually check. So I'm just gonna put the name and I'm gonna make it to lowercase. So I can say DB query, and first thing I have to do is to check. And I'm gonna check with the slug to see whether we do have that kind of slug. So we're gonna have error and the course. So you can say if the course.length, that's if it does exist, is greater than 0. All we simply want to do is to return a response.status of 400 with a JSON message of course exists. So this is going to terminate that and immediately return that for us. So let's just say right now we are not going to have any error because we don't have any course in our database. But let's construct a course we are going to store in our database, which is a data. I'm going to have the course name, which is the name dot to lowercase. Then we're going to have the slug, which is to slugify the name we are sending down. So I think I'm not getting that. Yeah. And we also have to put it to lowercase. Okay, this is comma. So let's scroll a little bit down. And right here, we can now use the SQL insert. So let me just say this is SQL insert. And we can use the query. So DB query. We can query with the SQL insert, and I'm going to insert the data, and also we have to see if there's an error, and we can get the results. So it's just a single result, and then in this callback we can say if there's an error, return response.status, and we want to return an error of 400 with a JSON message of let's say unable to insert course. But in case we don't have an error, that is if everything works fine, we can return that course that we just created, which is the data, and now we can return a status code of 200. Then we can send the data we just created. So that's one way we can add a course. So let's just go ahead and check. I think we can also use if an error, but if courses.length is greater than 0, it's good. Okay, we can't use if error because unless there is a specific error, that's if you want to track it, you can still go ahead and do it just like the way we did here if you want to track an error. So I'm going to come over to my Postman and I'm going to cancel this, and let's kind of send a wrong data. So everything is should be kind of working fine. So coming over to courses, and you could see we created an English language course, and we can be able to see that course right now from our Postman. Oh, so sorry guys, we didn't create any course yet. So the course name is going to be Samuel in case it created, but I don't think it did create. So I'm going to, let's say I'm going to terminate this, npm run start. I'm going to click on create. So right here we are having an error. So that was not actually working because it wasn't connected fine. So we're having an error on line 19, and line 19 says that if the course.length is greater than 0. So where is the error coming from? So line 19 is supposed to return an array, but here we are returning an undefined because we don't yet have something. Probably we should be able to get an array. And I checked that out. That's because we're using course here. So let me save that and make this request again. We shouldn't get an undefined again. We should get at least. So guys, I don't know why. Okay guys, I know what the problem is. That's because we are not using the nodemon yet. So we have to like run this every time in order to be able to apply the changes manually. So when I run this again, I think this time around we shouldn't get that error. So you could see we don't have that course, and right now that course has been created. So when we go over to our MongoDB and click on courses, we should be able to see Samuel as a course. So I just added this as a course, although we are going to create a route for deleting that. So we are now able to add a course. So let me just say, so we have at routes. So we can say a type of post, create a course. So the next one is gonna be a get. So we have crud, the crud functionality, create, read, update, and delete. So for the get or the read, we have router.get. So we can get, we are gonna have the request and the response. So guys, I know this tutorial is kind of boring, but trust me, if you follow along, you're gonna learn a lot of things. So here we can create a get query, which is going to select everything from courses. And we're going to use the database again, .query. And we have to query that. And in case you have an error, we grab that error also, we can get the results. So it's going to have like multiple cores. So right here, let me just, okay, let's just go ahead and return res of status of 200. Of course, we don't expect an error, so I don't want to manage that unless you can still go ahead and do that. We just want to return a JSON of results. So whenever I come over to here, I'm going to create, let's say we have English language, we have machine learning. I'm going to create that. And right here, you could see the data we are returning, which is going to contain the course name and the course. And the course log, I mean. So we have also Python. We also have, let's say, JavaScript. So let me just say JavaScript course because we need a slugified course also. Lastly, I can just put down HTML. So you could see it makes them to be on a lowercase while everything is fine. So I think I would just have to increase this font a little bit because it's very small. And I think that's better. So coming back here, let's quickly check in our in our database, which is our MySQL. You could see we have this list of courses except for Samuel, which is just a course that does not exist. So for the get right now, I'm gonna change this to get, and I'm gonna visit API/course. So we are not gonna add something like create. So when I send this, I think when I send this, we should be able to get all the courses. Cannot get API/course. So let me just okay. So right here, I think it shouldn't work because we are not using nodemon. So we have to also write, type down npm start. So we're gonna fix that immediately. So just bear with me. I'm gonna send this, and you could see the list of courses that we just created. So we have the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. So the only thing that's very bad that we didn't do is we didn't add a UUID. So coming back to our course, at the top here, you can quickly import the UUID version 4, and we can map it to UUID version 4, which is going to require the UUID. Then right here, we can just put down the UUID. We can say UUID version 4. And let's just go ahead and save that. So when we create a new course, it's going to have a UUID. So let me just go ahead and create one more course. So we have post, and we have in the body, we have CSS. So we're going to create a route that is going to delete all other codes that does not have the UUID. And let's kind of send. It's not going to work because we didn't add a create here. And send again. Right here, you could see that course. And coming back to get and clearing this out and send. So the last course should have a unique identifier, which it didn't add. It didn't add it, I don't know why. So we have the UUID. So guys, anytime we do this, we usually have to save, which is very, very bad. So I'm going to add something to the packet.json. Since we have the nodemon installed, I'm going to add its server, and we're going to use the nodemon server. So nodemon is going to automatically save that file and reload everything for us. So we can run npm server, which is far more better than the other one. So when we come back here, and let's say we want to create a course like which other course is very necessary? Let's say mathematics, and send it. This should be create, and also this should be post. So we have mathematics, and you can see the UUID that's returned. And when we come over to get, so you could see the last course there should have a unique identifier. So we've done that, and the next thing now is to update. Let's quickly go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna comment this quickly. Let me just go ahead and copy this. So this is get. So you can say get all the course. And then lastly, we are gonna have, sorry, not lastly, we are gonna have updates before we have, the delete. So update a course. So which is gonna accept a router.put, which is going to take in a request and a response. So this tutorial, I don't intend that this tutorial be long. So after this, I think you should have more understanding of how we went about to create a route. So I'm just going to quickly create the route for classes and students. And we're just going to go through how we created the functionalities that make up the route. So from the request, you're gonna grab some couple of things from the request body. We have the course name, the students, and also the slug. So let's do it this way. First of all, we're gonna have to create that new slug because we're gonna be updating with this slug coming here, but we have to now update it with the new slug coming from the course name, which is going to take in the course name from Slugify, and we have to make that to lowercase as well. So we can say if the students.length is equal to 0, that's if there is no student in this course, because whenever we are updating a course, we have to send along the students. Then we can just simply say return res.status 400.json. So we have a message of please add students to this course. So it's kind of getting long, so I just have to close that left pane. Then if that's in a case that we don't have error, then we can now proceed and just update that course. So let's say let's update data, that particular data, and we're gonna use the MySQL command. Totally right now forgotten that. We're gonna put down the SQL for updating a course. So we can say update courses. We have to set the course name. We also have to set the course students. And lastly, we have to set the slug. So this has to be this I've got to do with the old slug. So we can say where the slug is also the old slug. So for the old slug, we are gonna update that. So that's it. And right here we can say db.query. We can put the update data. So right here we're gonna pass all the data that we're gonna need here. So the first one is the course name. We can put the course name .to lowercase. And I'm gonna break this down. Then we have the students. So for the students, we just have to convert that array to string. And I'm gonna make it to lowercase as well. Then we now have to put down the new slug, which is going to be the new slug from the name. And lastly, we are targeting the old slug, which is just a slug. So when that's done, we're gonna have a comma, which is going to have a callback of error. So in case we do have an error, we just have to throw or stop that. So we can say if there's an error, we just have to return a response.status with a 400 error code and then a JSON message of unable to update a course. Let's say the course, which is better. And lastly, if the course updated, we just want to return a message of with a status of 200, and the message is gonna be updated. So that's it. So right now, let's go ahead and open our Postman and give that a try. I'm going to change this to puts, and we're gonna change that to, I think that's just a normal route here. It's okay. And right here, there are some things we're gonna put down there. So the first one is the course name. So let's say we wanna update, let's update the one with the Samuel. So let's say this Samuel. No, we are not going to update it with Samuel. I want to update that with Turkish language. So the slug itself should be the one with Samuel. The slug itself is Samuel. So what we are expecting here is the slug, so which is Samuel. And then we also have to bring down the students. So we actually don't have a student. So I think what I would do is, we don't have a student right now. So let me just go ahead and uncomment this so that this doesn't like block us from proceeding. Because if the length is 0, let's say I just leave it this way and then uncomment this, we should get an error. So that's it. We have the course name, the student, the slug, and hopefully that should work perfectly. So let me just go ahead and click on send. So you could see we have that message, please add students to this course. And what I'm going to do is to uncomment that, just like I said earlier. So let's uncomment that and let's send again. You should definitely update that course. So right here, we've updated this course, which has to do with Samuel to Turkish language. So I'm going to go over to get routes and let's get all the courses. So instead of us to see Samuel right now, we are going to see Turkish language. So you could see the second course has been updated, and that's the same thing we do have in our courses here. We don't have Samuel as a course again. We have Turkish language as a course. So we are making a progress, and the last one is going to be for delete. So I'm going to uncomment this when we go over to the client part of this tutorial. So the last one is going to be delete. So let me just go ahead and copy this and paste that, and we're going to have router.delete. So let me just scroll it up. So we have the request and the response. So we are going to be deleting with the course ID. So we do have a course ID for each course. So right here, you can see the course ID is what we're going to be using. From the request, the body. So we can just construct our delete query, which is delete from courses, where a course ID, so I'm just going to clear that, so never mind. So we just have to put a question mark there. Then we can say db.query. We can put the delete query, which is going to also bring out a callback with error and results, although we don't need that result. So let me just, in fact, we don't even need an error. Okay, we do need an error, but we don't need the results. Let me just put an underscore there. So I can say if there is an error, we just have to return a response dot status of 400 with a JSON message of unable to delete. Then if there is not an error, we just have to return a JSON. Let me just return a status of 200 with a JSON of we can put a success of true, although that 200 also makes sense, and that should be it. So we have to delete with a course ID. So I don't know, I didn't add that, so that's supposed to be here, and then you put a comma and save that. And right now I want to delete all the courses that does not have a slug. So we have course 1, course 3, course 4, course 5, and course 6. So these course 6 and 7, these are the ones that does not have a slug. So I'm going to delete them. So right here in the body, I'm just going to clear this. So we can put the course ID. I want to delete course 1. So let's go ahead and click on that. Delete 2. I think 3, 4, 5. I think 7, because 6 and 2 does have a slug. So going back to get, and let's get other course. So we have, yeah. So we have 6, 8, and we also have to delete 6. Well, we can delete 2, 6, and 2 and 6 and leave 8, because 8 does have a slug and UID. So that's how we can actually do this. So you could see we've created a crud functionality for our course. So let's just go over to classes, and then we can now go over to student. So right now, let's go ahead and do the route for the classes. So we have API/class, and we're going to require a file, which we're going to create quickly, which is a class file inside our routes. I'm going to quickly come over here and create a class.js file. And without further delay, we can just copy everything that we did here and just put it down, and then quickly module.exports the router. So I'm just going to copy this comment, which is one of these, and I'm going to close these files because we are done with that for now. So the first one is going to be a create class, which is just similar to what we did for the route. So we can say create a class. So we can just bring in router.post, and we can just add a create. So we have the request and the response. So for this one, I'm going to speed it up because it's just similar to what we just did before. So we just grab the name, and we also have to do a simple validation. So which is if we don't have a name here, we can just return a response.status of 400 with a message of please enter a class name. So let me just close this left pane, and here we can have the SQL for class. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to quickly copy almost everything we did here. So I'm just going to copy that, I think, just like I said before, and I'm going to quickly come over here and paste that. So we just have to change this to class, that's classes, and also change this to classes. So we have the name of the class, which is over here, and also change this to class. Okay, let's just use classes over here and change this to classes. So we can say this class exists, and we have the class name, the slug, and the UID. So we can say unable to insert a class, and lastly we can return the data we just inserted. So let's just go ahead and give that a try. So we have SQL insert and also the SQL check, and if we check in our MySQL database, it is classes, so we make sure we are using the right thing. So right now let's go ahead and give it a try, and we are going to open our Postman, and I'm going to change this link to that should be this should, okay, sorry guys, so this should be a class. And right here we're gonna change this to raw. Oh, sorry for that. We have the body, we have the JSON. Okay, so right here we have to put the course name, the class name. So I'm gonna create a class called primary1, and hopefully that should work. So let's send that. Actually, we are getting an error. That's because we don't have /class. We should put like create and send that. We do have another error. Oh, so sorry guys. So okay, that's not working because I remember clearly that we didn't actually add our routes in our server. So I have to make sure this is correct. So we have API/class. We have the post, and we can change this to post and try again. Okay, everything should work very well. So let's try that again. Yeah, and everything should work very well, just that we didn't put this as post. So coming back here and checking back in our classes, we should be able to see primary1. And one thing, okay, we added the UID, so I was thinking we didn't add that. So we are done with for the post, for the create. So the next one is going to be read, and we have the update and delete. So I'm going to come over here and also copy this. So for the read, just quickly copy that and paste and change everything. So get all the classes. So this is select all from classes, and that should be it. So when we come over to our Postman and change this to get and get rid of that and send, we should be able to see primary 1 class and also primary 1. So the next one is update. So it's just similar to update course as well. And I'm going to change this to update a class. And here we just want to update with the class name and also the course name. Sorry, the slug, not. So this is class name and the slug. So we just have to slugify the new class name. And right here, we don't need this because we are not passing any student to it. And the next one is to change this to class name. We have to update the new class name. So let me close the left pane. We have to update the new class name, also the slug, and lastly, okay, I think that should be enough. Just the two rows that we just have to update. So where the slug is this, and here we have the class name, and here we have the new slug, and I can get rid of one, and we are going to be using the old slug, which is going to now update with the new slug. So in case we do have an error, we can say unable to update class, and lastly, in case we don't have an error, then we just put down the updated. So let's just go over here, and in puts, I'm going to make a request, and here I want to update let's say we have the class name. So the one I want to update is this one of primary 1 class. So I'm just going to copy this log. So let's just copy everything here, and let's just paste that. Oh, so sorry guys for that. So let's just get rid of this and put a comma. So I can now put this as primary 2. So it's going to update this log to primary 2, but we are going to use primary 1 class to have access to this row in our database. So let's send. We are getting unable to update class. We shouldn't because, so okay, so sorry, that is classes, not courses, because I don't think we should get an error. Everything should work perfectly. Same thing, we are getting an error from we are getting the class name and this log. Then we have to update classes, and we have to set the class name and also the new slug, where the slug is the old previous log, and definitely we should be able to update that. So guys, that was supposed to work because we did set things very right, but I think the problem was from node1. So while I kept clicking on send, it eventually got it updated. So when we check in our database right now in classes, hopefully we should see primary 1 class as primary 2, and we should see the new slug. So we already have everything updated right now, and that shows us it's working fine. So if we want to change, okay, let's say I want to add, let's go ahead and add a new class first. Then let me just add an old class name. So let's say I'm going to add Samuel to the class. So I'm going to change this to post and send it. So Samuel should be added as a class. We are getting an error. I don't know why. and I think it's because we are using class name instead of name. So this is name, not a class name. So let's send again, and right here you could see that's added to the class, but it's kind of odd because if we check in our class, there is no class like Samuel. So I can just quickly change this again to put and clear this, and here we are going to put the class name to primary3, and then the slug happens to be Samuel. So that should be it. So when I send, it should get updated, and back in our MySQL database, Samuel should change to primary3 and also the slug to primary3. So that's how we can also do that for the class. So the last thing remaining there is to work on the delete, which is not going to take time as well. We can just come over here, copy the same thing, and you can just post that. So here we are going to be deleting it with the UID, and here we're going to be grabbing the UID, and here we're going to change this to request.parameters, request.params. So we want to delete from from classes where the UID, because we are using the UID right here, is equal to this, and here I can now change this to UID. So if you come to the database, you could see we do have a UID. So let's say I want to delete the primary3, I have to use the UID. So I want to make sure I'm not editing that. So I just have to copy. Okay, I copied primary1 or primary3. Let's just stick to primary3 so that we don't run into confusion. I'm going to come over here and change this to delete. And we have API/class. And I will just post this, I guess. So let me just send this. So sending that, we kind of got a simple error. So it kind of says that paras. So this is not paras, this is params. So that should work this time around. So let's just send it again. And check here. Okay, still saving. Let's send that again. So you could see we have the class deleted. So when we come over to our classes and click on that, you could see primary3 does not exist again. So we are done with classes. The next one remaining now is for the students. So let's just go ahead and create the student file. So I usually, well, students is good, class is good, courses is also good. So quickly put this down, and the first thing first is to use the router.post, and now we have to add the create. So we have the request and the response. So right here, we are gonna use the structuring to get some things from the request.body. So I'm just gonna add a equals sign here. So the first one is the name, we have the age, we have the courses, and we have the class name. So right here, we can also do a simple validation. We can say if there is no name, or if there is no age, and lastly, if there is no courses. Oh, not lastly, the last one is the class name. We can just return a response. Let me just break this down and close the left pane. A response, the status of 400 with a JSON message of please enter student details. So that should be it. Then we have the SQL for students. So here we can say let the SQL check equals to select star we have to select from students where slug equals to this. So when I say select star, that means select all. So let me just go ahead and copy this query. It kind of looks similar, and copy that as well. So that should be it. So we have to also insert into students. So this is kind of very cool. And then we have the slug for the name. So it's probably same thing. So first of all, we have to check with the slug. Then that's the old slug. We have to check if there is an error or a student. Whenever we want to add a student, of course, we have to check if that particular student does exist. So we are checking with the student's log. So it kind of takes this name and slugifies it here and uses that to check. So when we check, we just have to get back an error. We can say if the student dot length is greater than 0, we have to return a message of student exists. Then we also have to construct the data in case the student does not exist. So we have the student name dot to lowercase. We have the UID. So the UID, I think we've not, okay, we already have that at the top there. So I just quickly check. So we give that student a unique identifier. Then we also have the slug of that student, which is gonna be the name. Then we have the student age, and we wanna convert that age number to string. We have the student course. So student course, it's an array of course, but array of courses, which is coming from our request body. So I'm just going to convert that to string, and I'm going to make it a lowercase. Then lastly, we have the student class. So the student class is going to be the class name dot to lowercase. So that's it. And we now have to use the db.query. We have to query that SQL. We can pass our data, and we are going to have a callback of error, and we want to make sure we don't have an error. But if we do, we just have to return a response.status of 400. 400 is good. With a JSON message of unable to store a student. But if everything goes well, we just have to return exactly this, which is a status of 200 with a JSON of data. So what I'm using is tab 9. You can just come over here and search for tab 9. So just go ahead and search for tab 9. You can install the I've forgotten what to call it. You can install the plugin, then you can use it every time. So that's exactly what I'm using. So it kind of help you to with a lot of AI, artificial intelligence recommendation. So we can just save that. So there are some couple things we have to pass in our Postman. We have the student name, the UID, and the age. Okay, the UID is going to be generated, but these are just the ones we are going to be passing, not from the ones in the data. I'm going to open our Postman, and we can change this to students. And coming back in our server, I just say app.use API/students, and we have to require route/students. Go ahead and save that. And so I think something is wrong here. Something is wrong here. We did a MySQL check, but we didn't actually insert into the database because we didn't complete this to MySQL insert. So you can go ahead and clear that and paste it. So go ahead and save it and allow the node to restart our server. So right now, let's open our Postman, and we're going to change this to students, and this has to be a post. Sorry, I think, yeah, student/create. Where is it? So we have student/create. So whenever we want to create a student, there are some couple things we have to pass along. So the first one is the student name. So we're gonna have the name. So let's say the student name is Samuel Anthony. So sometimes I feel like I'm using Vim. So we have the student age. Of course, I'll put 15 there. Then we have the student courses. So the student courses is an array of courses. Let's say Samuel studies mathematics. And for the courses, I'm going to use courses that are available here. So I'm just going to use courses that we have mathematics and HTML. So Samuel studies mathematics and HTML. And let's say the class name. So we can come over here and look for a class. So the class name is primary 1. So that's class name. You can put that as primary 1. And hopefully that should be it, because here we have the student name, the student age, the student class, which is the class name, and UID and slug has to automatically handle by themselves. So right now, let's just go ahead and send this data and see what happens. So you could see we've created a student and we are able to return that student that we just created. So we have the student name, the UID and the slug, which created automatically. Then we have the student age, and then course, the course the student studies, and also the class the student is currently at. So right here in our MySQL database, we should be able to see a new student, which is Samuel Anthony, and also all the data that comes with it. So the next thing now is to work on the update. So I'm just going to come over to class, just similar to that. I'm going to copy. I think before we work on the updates, let's just go ahead and get all the students. I'm going to copy this and come over here and paste that. So get all students. So we want to get everything from students, and that should be it. So when we come over here and remove this, I don't know why my hand usually comes over here, and change this to get and click on it, we should be able to get all the students available in our database. So we have Samuel, and we have another Samuel here, then we have Johnson Harmony. So the next one is to update. I'm just going to, so let me just go ahead and copy everything in the update of the class, and I can come over here and paste that. I'm going to change this to update a student record. So when we want to update a student record, we're going to need to update the name, the age, the courses, the class name, the slug, and also the UID. So these are the things that we're going to be updating. Then we are going to also create a new slug from the name. Then for the update data, we have to update students. So we have to set the student's name. We also have the student's age. We also have the student's course. We also have the slug. We also have the slug. where the previous log, it's exactly what we are targeting. So I'm going to clear everything from here except for the last log. So the first one we need here, let me just break this down. So the first one we need here is the name. We have to update that. Then we have the age, we have the courses to string, we have the class name dot lowercase as well. We also have the new slug, and lastly the slug. So remember, the new slug is the slug we are going to be updating. So that's it there. And then we're going to be using the old slug to update that user. So I'm just going to speed it up so we can say unable to update student record. And then for this one, we just have to return that updated data. But we are going to be selective. So what I want to return here is the name, age, the courses, the class name, or we can even just return the data. So it's just the same thing, return the data, and we can set updated to true. So I don't even know what I'm doing right now, but I'm sure it's going to be relevant while we are over to the client. So that's good. And before I go ahead to test that, let's just quickly bring down the delete. So for the delete, it's just very simple. We can copy the comment here and paste it here. So we can say delete a student. So we are going to be deleting with the ID as well. So we want to delete from students, where the UID is the same thing, and right here we can see unable to delete, and when we've deleted we can just return that success. And I think that's it. So right now I'm going to update I want to update this student called Samuel to a new name. So we can update it to something like Mohammed. I'm going to come over to here, and now we're going to change this to put. So in this put, these are the things that we're going to be updating. So let me just put it down. So we are going to update this name to Mohammed. So I don't even know how to spell Mohammed. Let's say Muhammad Ali. Then we have to update the age to like 20. Then the courses Muhammad, let's just remove HTML and leave mathematics, and we can change the class to primary 2. Then also another thing we have to update is we're going to update the slug. Okay, I think for this, no, we are not going to update the slug. We already have the slug from the name. So that should be it. So let me just go ahead and send this and see what goes on. Yeah, I know we are going to have an error because we are seeing data undefined on line 81. So this data, okay, this data was supposed to be coming from here. So guys, look at what I want to do now. I want to, okay, let's do this way. I want to return the name, I want to return the age, the courses as well. I also want to return the class name, and I think that's okay, so that we don't have an error again. So I'm going to send that again, and let's see. So I think it's not yet started, so let's send it again. So right here you could see we've updated that particular user. I think I updated a user without a slug, so it's not going to work because there is no user that got targeted here, so I have to add a slug to the user, and that slug is Samuel. So right here, so in our Postman we can add a slug and we can change this to Samuel. Then I'm gonna send that, so hopefully that should work. So we have updated true, and now we've changed that Samuel to Muhammad Ali, and we've updated the student record. So let's click on that. I don't know why we are not able to get that. So we update students. So guys, I couldn't figure out what the problem was, but I think I added a courses.toString here. So make sure you use this toString in order to convert that array to string, and make sure you add the respective rows and columns. So that's what I just did. And coming back here and checking back in our database, we still have Samuel, but here when we come over here and change everything to the new data and click on send, we should be able to get that new data, and in our database we should be able to see this user Samuel updated to Muhammad Ali, and also the courses and the classes updated. So that's just it, very simple. So for the delete, let's just quickly go ahead and copy one of these. So I want to delete the second row. I'm just going to come over here and change this to delete, and then I'm going to paste this and send, and you could see we have a success of true. And if I come back to my database and click on students, we are not going to see that second row anymore. So that's how we can build a full CRUD application for, a full CRUD functionality for our server, for courses, classes, and also students. So right now, let's go ahead and work on the client part of our application. We are done working on the server. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you some couple things that we created earlier. That is the React application. Using the Create React app, I was able to create this React application. You could see it in the client folder. And right here, these are the necessary files that we just need. We just need the app.js. Every other file, apart from these ones we just left, every other file we got it deleted. We don't even need this app.css. You can still get rid of that. And make sure you delete it, even if it is included in the index.js file or anywhere, just make sure you remove it. And I'm going to now add the store, which is the state management. And first thing first is to create the store folder. So come over here and create a store.js file. This is where we are going to be adding our store and making sure everything is connected. And I'm going to create actions folder. Still inside the same store, I'm going to create reducers folder. Inside this actions folder, we have to create a types.js file, which is going to contain types that we're going to be dispatching in our reducer. And I'm going to create an index.js file here, which is going to have our combined reducer. So just quickly, we can just import from Redux, combine reducers. Right here, we can export defaults, combine reducers. Now inside these reducers, we have to create 3 files. The first one is the course reducers. We have to also create the class reducers. And lastly, we can create the student reducers. So we can just quickly do something like this. We have our initial state, which is just an empty object. I'm going to export defaults. You can either use a function or an arrow function. Anyone is going to work. So here it is going to contain the initial state, and here we are going to be accepting 2 things, which is the type and the payload. So we are just simply using the structuring. Of course, you can do it your own way. You can just put something like actions, then you can use actions.type or actions.payload. And each of these is going to accept a switch, and we are going to switch in with the type, but let's just return the default, which is going to return the state. So go ahead and save that and copy this and paste them inside here, inside the respective files. And one more thing we didn't create is the error reducer. So for the error reducer, we are going to be importing something. Before we import that, sorry, let's just add let's say error types, which is we have to export first the get error, which is going to be get error. We also have to export the clear error, which is the clear error as well, so we can get rid of that. And coming back into this, let me just close all the reducers for now. Coming back into this error reducers, we can just quickly go ahead and import that from types. So make sure you get everything correctly. If we don't, we are going to have an error action.types, and right here we have the get error as well as the clear error. And I'm going to quickly put this error reducer down. So right here you could see we have the initial state, which is going to contain a message key, status key, and also the ID with the initial values. So for the initial state, we just right here use an action, something like I told you earlier. Instead of you to use the structuring, you can also use an action. And then these are type of actions that we're going to be dispatching to our reducer. We have the get error and the clear errors. So that kind of gives you a clue of how other reducers are going to look alike. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to add more types here. Before we proceed, I'm going to add more types. So we have the courses types. We also have the students types. So quickly, these are the respective types that we're going to be using. We have the get courses, add courses, delete courses, and for this one we can actually use it whenever we want to add a course and we are not able to add it. We can dispatch something like a course fail. Maybe you are using a spinner icon, you can set it to a boolean value, which is actually going to be true whenever you click on submit a course. Then when a course fails to submit due to an error from the back end, this one can be dispatched in order to reset that spinner back to false or the boolean value back to false. Then lastly, we have the update course, and these are just the ones we have for now, but if there are necessary ones to add as we proceed, we are still going to add them. Then we have the class types, likewise the student types. So right now we are done setting up our reducer. We've not yet connected our store, which we're going to be doing quickly. So here I'm going to be importing from Redux. We have to import the create store. We also have to import the apply middleware, and we have to import the compose. So with the help of the compose, we can be able to check out our Redux state in our Chrome or in our browser using the React Redux component plugin. So the first is to create our store, which is going to take in the create store, and it's going to accept three things, which is the first one, the root reducer. The second one is the initial state, and the third one is the compose enhancer. So the compose enhancers is going to accept the apply middleware, and we can pass multiple middlewares here. So I'm going to create a middleware we're just going to spread, so a middleware array, and then lastly we can just export default of store. Then at the top here, I'm going to create our initial state. So we just have to maintain this. If this has to be null, we just have to make sure that inside our respective reducers, we did set this to null as well. So just make sure you do that. So whatever you put here, it's how your reducer initial state is going to be. Then we also have the middleware, which is just an array, and it's going to accept a thunk. So in case you have multiple middleware, you can just pass that there. We have Redux thunk, and we have to create the compose enhancers. So with the help of compose enhancers, like I said initially, we can be able to see our states inside our Chrome. I'm going to open this, and inside here you could see at the top here, you could see one of the plugins we have is the Redux developer tools, and right here we have the Redux. So you could see we don't have this application connected to our Redux, which is the browser, because we actually do have this one, but it's not yet connected. So with the help of that compose enhancer, we can be able to see our states and our reducers, and also our initial state values over here. So this is going to be window dot. We have Redux dev tools. This is extension. We have compose, or we can just use the compose. So that should solve it. And lastly, let's come over here and import React Redux, which is going to help us to connect our Redux to our application. So we have the provider, and I'm going to wrap everything here. Inside the provider. And let's save that. If we do have an error, we should be able to see it. And it seems like something is wrong. Say from source. So right here, it's where the problem is from. And let's save that again and refresh. So we have cannot read a get state of undefined. We have the providers, but we did not pass the store, so sorry for that. So we can import the store from the store/store, and here we can use the structuring. Can just pass the store this way and save that again. So let's refresh. So we have the root reducer is not defined inside our store. Inside the store file, yeah, we don't have the root reducer yet created, yet imported, I mean. So I can just import the root reducer from. Remember that we do have an index.js file which is exporting a compose reducer. So quickly I can just import our reducers here. So we have to import the course reducer from course reducers. We also have to import the class reducers. We also have to import the student reducer. So quickly here, we can just label it. And one more thing, don't forget to import the error reducer. And the first one is the course. We have the course reducer. The second one is the student. Can just do it this way. The third one is the class reducer, and the last one is the error. We have the error reducer, and that should solve it. And let's save and come back here. So hopefully when we refresh, we shouldn't get an error again. So right here you could see we have our Redux connected, and over here you could see our initial state with the help of the React Redux Redux DevTools extension we have here. It's helping us to check that as well. So you could see in our error we do have an initial state, and whenever we make a changes, we can be able to trace that, and we can even be able to play it out. So we've connected this, and the next one now to do is to come over to the actions. There are some couple of actions we are going to be creating. We are going to be creating the course actions, the class actions, the student actions, and also the error actions. So the first one here is the course actions. We also have the class actions. We also have the student actions, and we also have the error actions. So because I use Redux a lot, it kind of get bored whenever I'm repeating some things, but anyways, it's not bad. Kind of makes you familiarize your code very well. I'm going to close these files because we don't need it for now. So we don't need all this one. So just like the way we constructed our API, and we are able to use Postman to test out the routes to see whether they are working perfectly. So these routes, the way we actually constructed those data with objects in our Postman, and we are able to like send them with the send button and get back some response. That's what we want to do here, to construct some functions which is going to have something similar like that. So the first one is the course action. So we have the create course. So we're gonna have the crud, which is the create, read, update, and delete. And we have to export a create course here, which is a function that is going to take in a name, and it's going to be an assign function which is going to accept a dispatch here. Right here we can just set the headers, which is going to be a const of configurations. We have the headers, which is the content type of application /JSON. Then we have the request. So I usually like doing this way so that it can be a little bit colorful. Then we have the request body. So whenever we want to create a course, we have to make a request using the Axios. So we have the Axios, and we didn't import that at the top, so I can just import Axios from Axios. So we have axios.post, and we are going to be posting to API/course/create, if you can recall. Then we can pass the body and the config, and then here we can get the response, and in case we do have an error, we also have to catch that error. So whenever we do have an error, let's handle that first. We have to dispatch something called course fail. Just like I told you earlier, we can dispatch a course fail, and then we can also dispatch a return error. So let's just put this down. A return error is going to accept the error.response.data.message. Then here we have the status. And lastly here we have the okay, let's do it this way. We have the course field. So like I said, if there are necessary types we are going to be creating, we can just go ahead and create it. So okay, this is for error ID. We don't even need to create that type. So we have to import from, we have the types file, we have the clear errors. We also have the add course, and we also have the course field. So let me just make sure these things are imported. So everything is imported perfectly. Is it clear? But its value is never read. The clear errors. Okay, we don't need to, I don't think we have to use, actually I'm using the clear errors here. Okay, that should be inside here. Whenever we get the response, if we have a 200 request or a successful request, then I can just, let me just destructure the data from here, which we are going to be getting back. Then we can just say dispatch a type of clear errors in case we do have an error in our error reducer. And then we also have to dispatch a type of add course, which is going to have a payload of data, and then we have to dispatch a type of course created. So this course created, like I said, we can set it as a Boolean value in our reducer, but we are still going to come to the part of using our reducer. I'm just going to import this here and come over to the types. I think we didn't get this perfectly. So right here, I can export a const of course created, which is also a course created. Let me close other actions first. And we have the course created, and instead of us to use quotes here, we can now use that. So even if you use quotes here, just that in your reducer also you're gonna use quotes, but you have to use the same spelling or it's not going to trigger this type. So that's it for whenever we want to create a course. Then we have the name. We've not yet passed something to the body. So for the body, we can just use the JSON.stringify, and we just want to stringify that name. So whenever we make an whenever we make a request, it's going to hit API/course/create, which is down here. API/course/create, and it's going to hit it with the name, and everything is going to be handled here for us. So that's it for create a course. And the second one is to read the courses. So let's just say read courses. So we have to export a const of get courses, which is going to have a dispatch, and so we have to use axios.get. So we just simply have /API/course. Then we are going to have a response, and also we have the catch, which is the error. So here we are just going to dispatch simply a return error, I think we didn't yet add something in our error reducer, or we didn't even import it here. We have it added, but we did not import it. I'm going to let's say import the error actions, which is going to import from error actions. So here we have the return error, and let's make sure we have things spelled correctly. Okay, we didn't even add that because I was very surprised. So let me just go ahead and add that. So this is just to return errors. Whenever we have errors, it's just going to return that errors with this type of dispatch, and also clear error, which is going to clear every error and reset everything to null. You're gonna see how we can do that in our reducer. So this is return errors. So here we also have return errors. Let me just copy this and come down here, and so return errors is going to contain error.response.data.message, error.response.status, and in case we don't have a special ID, we can put it there, but I don't want to put a special ID for get cause. Then here we are just going to get hold of the data, and I'm going to dispatch a type of clear errors as well. And lastly, we have to dispatch a type of add cause, which is going to have a payload of response.data. So this is it for get causes. Then the next one is update. So for update cause, it's going to be quite a little bit difficult, but we are still going to arrive at the end. Let me just comment that first. So this is just update a course. Let's just leave it this way. Update a course is not bad. So update a course is going to accept the course name, is going to accept the students, slug and UID, and it's going to be an assign function, which is going to take in a dispatch. So here we have the request body, which is going to be a JSON.stringify as usual. So here we have to stringify the course name, the students. We also have the slug and the UID. Then for the headers, I'm just going to copy this. I don't want to type it down twice. So let's just comment that as headers. And we're gonna make a request with the Axios. So here we are using the put request, which is going to accept the API/course, and we can pass the body and the config. Then we are not going to be returning any data. All we just simply have to do is to dispatch a type of update course. Then we have to catch the error in case we don't have one. Then we have the dispatch, which is to return the errors. Then inside here we have the error.response.data dot message. Then we have the error.response.status, and lastly here we can just pass a simple ID, something like update course error. We are going to be making use of this one to actually display the message coming from our return errors for update course. And that's it for update course. And lastly, we have one more thing: delete a course. So I like to do it this way: delete a course, which is gonna have a delete course. So don't mind that. That's the type 9 AI. So for delete, we are just simply going to accept the ID. Then we have the dispatch as well. So right here we have the config, and inside that config we have the headers, and inside here we have the content type. And we are going to be making an Axios delete request, which is going to go to API/course, and we are going to be passing some data to it. So the data is going to be the UID or the ID that we are passing, but here I'm going to label that course ID and then pass that ID. Then we have to now pass our headers. So the tab 9 AI is actually helping, but sometimes it just goes off. Then, and also we have the catch. So let's handle for the error first. So if we do have an error, I want to do something similar to this. I want to paste that. So here I should have an ID of delete and error, but I don't think it's necessary. We can still get rid of that. We can use something like a Boolean value if you want, but it's not necessary. And right here we're gonna have to use a callback, which is going to dispatch a type of course, let's say course deleted. So let me just clear this. And I think I'm not getting something right, because we should be getting a recommendation except we didn't add that. So we have, okay, that should be delete. Okay, this is relevant for us to add, so we can just copy this. I think we don't have that type. That's why we are getting just non-recommendation. So we have course deleted here. I'm going to save that and come here, and instead of us to use delete course, you can use course deleted. So that's over there. We have only one course deleted. So that's it for the course. And let's go over to our application and refresh. In case we do have an error, we should be able to see that error. And right here, we don't have an error. And the next one we are going to be doing is for the classes. I'm going to copy everything in the course and come over to the class actions and paste that. Then right here we have the error actions. Then for the types here, I'm going to leave this, and we're going to remove the ones that are not necessary. Then we have create class. Then right here, whenever we are creating a class, we also have the class name, and we have all these respectively. So the only thing I will remove here or change is the add class. So we have the add class, and I also have the, I think it is a class created. So we don't yet have this type, so we can just go ahead and copy that, come over to these types, and right here you can just export a const of class created. So come right here and import that, and we can get rid of course created, and we have our class created. So another thing we have here is class fail, and I don't think we do have that inside our, okay, we do have class fail over there. So quickly import that here as well. You can now get rid of class fail, and this one we can just set the ID of class fail, and I think let's not just use class fail again. Let's just use something like class error, because we already have class fail as the dispatch. So that should be it. And now right here, instead of us to use add course, why don't we just bring in add class? So we have add class here, and that should be it. So whenever we create a class, we set the headers, we pass the name of the class we want to create, then we have to make a request to /class/create, and we are done with that. Now for the second one, which is the get, is going to be very simple. We just have to make a request to /class, and we have to clear errors in case. Then we have class here, and that's it. Then for the update a class, we have to change this to update a class. When we want to update a class, we have to put down some things. So the first one is the class name. Instead of us to use course name, we have the slug, because it's just the name of the class we want to update, and also we have the UID, and we have to set the headers. Then for this one, we just have to update that to class name. We don't need the students, but we need the slug and the UID. Then right here we have update class, so we can just import that, and right here we can say we have update. Oh, so sorry for that, guys. So this is because my caps is on, so we have the update class error. And now we can't forget that we are making an API request to /class. So that's it for update class, and we're almost done. Then for this one, we have it imported, but we have to remove update a course. Okay, update course is not there. Then lastly, we have to delete. Then we have to make a request to /delete. And when we want to delete a class, we have to delete with the ID. So instead of us to have, let me just quickly check this out. So we are deleting with the, guys, I figured out that we actually need something wrong here. Okay, we are not doing anything wrong, just that we have to change this to the class. I was thinking we are doing something wrong. So we are deleting with the UID this time around. And right here, we make a request to /API/. So I'm going to change this to backticks, the UID, and then for the data, we don't have any data. We just have to pass the config. So I'm getting something wrong. I don't know why. Okay, everything is right. Then we have the class deleted, and also I think we don't have class deleted created, and we just have to leave every other thing the same way it is. I'm just going to copy this and come here and paste that, get rid of that, and come over to the types. And now we're gonna have export a const of this, and we can remove the delete class. So that should be it for crud for class, and the only one remaining now is for students. So everything is working perfectly. I don't think we do have an error. And for the students, I'm going to copy everything in the class as well, and come over to the student actions and paste that. Then right here we have create students. Then for the students, it's going to accept some couple of parameters. The first one is the name. We have the age, the courses, which is an array of courses, and also the class name. So we have the header set, and then we are going to stringify every value. So we have the name, age, courses, and class name. Then right here we have to change this to students. Then we have the body and this, and right here we have the add students, which is going to import that for us, and also we have the students created. So if you could recall, usually these ones we don't add them, we have to like do it manually. Sorry, not do it manually, we have to redo that because we did it manually. So I have this, export a const of this, which is this, and we can save that, and I think that should be it. Then in case we have an error, we don't have something like a student fail, but in case you want, you can see add something like students fail. Maybe you're using a boolean value, but it is not actually necessary. Then right here we have the students error. The next one is to get the students. I'm going to clear everything here and put students. So we are making a request to API/students, and we have the clear errors. We also have the add students with the response data. Then for the error, we just leave it the same way it is. So we can even get rid of these curly braces because it will still work fine. It's not bad. And get rid of this here. Then the next one is update a student. So updating a student. Let's say we have to update the name, the age, the class name. We have the course of the student, the slug, and also the UID. So we have to stringify everything there. So we have the name, age, class name, and the UID. So tab 9 sometimes thinks relevantly, but sometimes it just does things off point. So we have the config as well, and we are making a request to API/students, and we can pass our body, and whenever everything works perfectly, we can just update the students. And here, in case we have an error, we have update student error. Then lastly, we have delete students. So for delete students, it's going to be deleting with the ID. Then we have to make a request to student/UID, and whenever it's deleted, we have to delete students, and that should be it. And we don't actually need something like student fail, or we are not using a boolean value to handle that error. We are just making a perfect redirection, which we are going to be going in shortly So that's it for the 3 actions that we are going to be using in this tutorial. So the next thing now is to come over to this application and then connect our router and then do some other necessary things, and we are going to have our application working perfectly. If you have come this far, please do make sure you hit that like button and also the subscribe button. Right now, there are some couple components we are going to be creating because we are done with our Redux actions, and we have to make use of those actions inside our application. The first one we are going to do is to come over into this source folder. I'm going to create a folder called components. And this component is going to contain some couple things, and we are going to have a component called home. Let me just say home component.js. So I will just use my ROFCE to bring the React functional based component boilerplate down. So let me just call this home component. Why I did this is because we are going to be using React router. We are not going to be just we are not going to be using just the application provided this way. We are going to be using React router DOM to navigate through our application because we have the students, the courses, as well as the classes. So I'm going to make some couple of imports. So we have to import from React router DOM, and I think we have to import the browser router as router. Then we have to also import the routes. So let me make sure everything is, I think okay, we do have the routes, so that's it. I'm going to get rid of this one, and right here we can now use our router, and inside our router we also have to import one more thing called the switch, and we have the switch. Now this switch is now going to have some routes. So the first one is going to be the home component. So even if I don't add something like I think we use the path, yeah, not these two. So even if I don't add this, we are still going to be redirecting every other single route to the home component. And just go ahead and hit enter and import that. So we have the components. When we go ahead and save and check back here, we should be able to see home components instead of seeing that. And I think what's delaying here should be because it's compiling. Yeah, so you could see we have the home component. So any link that doesn't exist in our route, we automatically make use of the home component. So it's usually advisable to use a component for 404 error handling, but we're not going to be doing that in this tutorial. Now the next thing to do is to make use of our store actions. I'm going to import from. We have to go over to the store folder and also to the actions folder, and I'm going to import these 3 files. We have the class actions, the course actions, likewise the student actions. So here we should import the get courses, we have the get classes. So we should definitely have a get classes over there. So I think maybe I didn't spell things correctly. So right here we should be able to have get classes. So we are dealing with class. We already done handling this. We are not kind of repeating ourselves. So here is get classes. This one is get courses, and this one is get students. We want it that whenever our application opens, we have to first of all get those datas in case we do have any. So we are going to be using our store. all we can simply do is to use the store.dispatch, and we can use the get courses, which is a function, store.dispatch, get classes as well, store.dispatch, we have the get students, and we can go ahead and save that. I think I didn't do this right. Let's go ahead and save. And because we are using Morgan DevTools to log out our route, so if you check, let me just go ahead and close every other component, or let me just close or reopen the app.js file and also the server.js file. So right here you could see we are using the Morgan, and if we are making a request, we should be able to see that request perfectly here. Now this is very good because it's kind of helping us to detect what we are doing wrong all this while. I'm just going to define all this one. So we have update course, clear errors, and delete students. And I think we have student actions as well as course actions. I can just come over here quickly. So the first one there is to add update course. We have update course. I'm going to paste this, come over here, and can just quickly export that, which is update a course. And the second one is okay, we already have it created. The second one is clear errors from student actions. We have delete students, clear errors over here, and so let me just kind of import clear errors. And one more thing, we have delete students. So I think that should fix those. Yeah, and that fixed it. So like initially we were talking about, whenever we make a request, we are having an error connecting to the database. So let me just go ahead and start my SAM, and I have that done. We have our database connected. Whenever I refresh here, I want to check our console, and also I want to check in. It seems like nothing is happening. Seems like we are not making that request properly. So let me just refresh. You should be able to see. We should be able to see our dev Morgan log things out. Or let's just go ahead and restart our application generally. Okay guys, instead of us to restart our application, there is something I forgot that we did not add. So that's why it's not even going to make that request in the first place. I'm going to close these files. I'm going to come over to the packet.json file, and underneath here we should add something called proxy. So just go ahead and add a proxy key, and the proxy is going to be HTTP. We have localhost 5000, and that should be it. Remember, we are using a localhost 5000 in our server, so make sure you add that as a proxy. And what you can do is to generally restart your application. So we have npm run client. So right here you could see, with the help of that proxy, we are now able to make that request. Let's close the previous page, and as usual, I wanted to bring this out, and let's open the console pane. What we can now do is to come over to this app.js file, and what I want to do right now is to come over to the home component. I can now go ahead and import. I can import some things. I want to import the courses. So let me just go ahead and do this. Okay, we already have everything imported. There is no need for us to import I just want to simply import something from React Redux, and that is the use selector. So use selector helps us to access our reducer. So with the help of use selector, I can just use the structuring and use the selector to go to our state reducer. I want to have access to the state courses. So we have the courses. If I go ahead and console.log this out and save, checking back here, we should be able to see some data. Definitely it's telling us undefined because something is not right, and we can just fix that ASAP. And I think that's because generally we've not yet added the data that have been dispatched. We've not yet added it to the initial state value or updated our initial state using our reducers. So that's very simple. Let's just go ahead and do that as well. Then for this course reducer, we are going to come here, and in our initial state, I want to have something like a spinner icon, which I didn't use, but if you want to use it, you can still go ahead. Then I'm going to have the courses generally, which is just an array. So if I go ahead and save this and bring you back here, you could see we now have an empty array. Then we have created, which is a false. We also have updated, which is a false. We also have deleted, which is also a false. So the only thing I didn't add here was loading, but let me just leave it to kind of help you to also know how to use more about Redux. So, but I'm not going to use that. So right here, we have a dispatch from these courses. From these course actions, we have a dispatch of add course, and we just want to handle that. So whenever we have a case, let's say a case of add course, you just want to return an empty object. We want to return an empty object, and inside this empty object, from the previous state, which we can use a spread operator, I just want to take the courses, and we now have to like spread the initial state.courses. Then we can now spread the array that is being returned from our backend. So this is because of tab 9 kind of disturbing me, and when I save this and our application refreshes, it's going to make that request once more, and hopefully this time around we should be able to see some courses. So you could see we do have an array of courses. Likewise, like I was saying, you can use something like loading through. You can dispatch a loading courses. You can set this basically to true. Then when the course has loaded, or whenever we have added the course, the loading turns to false. But like I said, I'm not going to use it. It can be a challenge for you. So right now we have these, and let me just quickly go ahead and add other case. So we have a case of, I think we have course created. So let's import that, which is going to return. I don't like repeating this. Then we have, whenever we create a course, we have to update the created to true, and we are going to be using that to make some redirects. We also have a case of update course. So let me make sure that this is imported as well. Then we have return. Whenever we update as well, we just want to set updated to true. And lastly, we have a case of course deleted. I want to make sure that's imported as well. We want to return sorry for that. We want to return an object with the previous state and I want to set the deleted to true. That's it for update course, and I think we can now proceed. So right here you could see the course, and whenever we refresh, it's going to always be making a request, and in our server you could see those requests that have been made because of Morgan. So we're making a little bit of progress. What I'm going to do is to add a design for the home component, and what I simply did was to copy that and put it down. I'm going to create a file called app.navbar, which I'm going to do shortly, but here you could see we have the app actions by the left. Then whenever the courses.length is greater than 0, we can be able to add more courses, add a class as well as add the students, or else we can just see something like create a course, because without a course we can be able to add a class or a student. And we have that added. I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to import some things from React Router DOM, and we just want to import the link. So the link is going to be helping us to navigate through our application. So right here you could see a link to create course. We're still going to come back here to add many routes. We don't have avatar. Avatar is not defined, and let's quickly do that. We've right now added the avatar. And one more thing we didn't add earlier was the CSS. You still go ahead and import that CSS file, which is just on the root component folder. So we've done that, and the next one now is to add a route for create course. And quickly let's do that. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to copy. So this one has to now be on the bottom. So every other route should be above it. The first one we are going to have is to create course, and this is path. So guys, not like I'm going to delay in this, because I don't want this to be like a very long tutorial. It's just to show you how you can actually create a simple class management application. So this one is going to contain the admin course. Sorry for that, admin course components that we are going to be adding. So we already have it in our project, so I'm just going to import that. Still not recommending. And the second route is going to be a route of create class. We also have a component of admin class, and the third one is create students. So after this one, I'm going to add all the routes. So we have a component as well of admin students. Let me just go ahead and add all the routes. Then right here you could see we have the student route to list out the students, the classes, and then we have for updating a class, about a course as well. We also have for a student, updating a student, then getting a single student. We have for courses, generally the list of courses, and lastly we have updating a particular course. Then at the top there, we are going to import all those components. You can just quickly go ahead and import that, and that should be it. So I can grab this one and let's say just here, it's also a good place. I can just get rid of one. So I think I'm having we have the app navbar. Definitely we should be able to let me see what's wrong. So okay, we don't need this here. I remember clearly we don't need it here. Then for the home components, there's nothing wrong with it. We can get rid of this one. Yeah, so you could see we have all the components installed and imported. We have the courses, we have the classes, the student as well, and the CSS. So if we do have an error, we can just go ahead and fix that. It says create a course is not exported from class actions. Yes, we are not supposed to have create course from class actions, and that's coming from admin course, and this is course actions. So let's refresh, and hopefully we should see that error no more. So something is actually wrong, and let's go ahead and figure it out. And I went ahead to fix every import that was not correct, and right now we have our application running. And why you can see this is because we have already some courses which I use in the demo of the application. So we already have it in our database. We also have the create class and also add a student. So whenever we click on this, we shouldn't get an error. I think something is not right here. So let's just quickly check that out. It says on line 50. We're actually getting something wrong here. That's why we are getting that error. We shouldn't be getting a single error in our application. So let me click on create a class. Create class works perfectly, and also create course works perfectly, except for add a student. And for the add a student, let's kind of check what's the problem on line 50. And I figured out that I think in the reducer, we don't have anything in the reducer yet. And let's go over to the reducer for class and student and see. And that's exactly why. And also for student, that's exactly why. So let's just go ahead and fix that immediately. So each reducer is going to have some initial state values. We have students. So this is for student reducer. Let me quickly do that. We have students, which is just an empty array. We also have updated false. We also have deleted false. We also have created false. Then right here, we are going to have a case of add student, and let's say case of add students. So I want to make sure that is imported. I'm just going to return an empty object, and we have access to our initial state. Then we just want to take students, and I want to spread this here. I want to spread that, and I want to have access to students, and then we can spread the payload. Then we have a case of student created. So we just have to make sure we have that imported. We can return still this empty object. We just have to update the created to true, just like we did for the courses as well. Then we have a case of update students. Then we have an empty object of states, initial states. Whenever we update, we also have to set updated to true, and let's make sure it's correct. And the last one is delete, a case of delete students. Then we have to return an empty object. Then we have the deleted to true. And let's save that, and quickly let's come over to the class reducer. Just similar to the student reducer, I'm just going to copy everything here except for students, and we can come over here and paste that, and then we can add our classes here as an empty object. Then we have a case of add class. So I know that all this I'm doing now, you may be familiar with it, but it kind of helps. So we have a state, then this state, we're gonna have classes. So we want to spread our state or classes with a payload and spread it as well. So our tab 9 is kind of being responsible right now. So we have also updates. So that should be updates a class, which is going to return an empty object of. So this tab 9 kind of sometimes goes off, but it helps. Then we have a updated of true. We have a case of class created. Then we have this return, which is going to return initial state values, and then they created to true. And last thing is to have class deleted, which is going to have a return statement, and we have the state as well with a return of, with a deleted of true. And let's save that and come back here. I'm going to get rid of this empty array and comment this and bring it back. So let's save and come back here. It's saying we don't have add class on class reducer, and I think it's because we didn't import it. So we should have add class right now. So hopefully this time around it should work perfectly. Yeah, and everything is working. When we come back here, we could see everything is working. And let's say I want to add a new student. We have student age of 30 and the courses HTML and Turkish language. So we also have something going on here. We are able to add a class, but for some reason I don't know why we are getting that error. So let's click there. So let me kind of comment this out. We should be able to get an error this time around. So the error is actually showing is because why we are not seeing that error. Because if we check here, we should be able to get a 400 error, but right here we are not seeing any error because we did not dispatch any error yet. And I'm going to comment that error out, error.response.data. And I think because these return errors, we have return errors imported, but so let's add that again, and everything is working fine. So in the first place, I don't know what the problem is, but so far so good. I don't think we should experience any error when trying to add a student. So let's say another student of 40. Then for the courses are not showing. I don't know why. Let's go over to manage courses. Here we have the list of courses, and here we can click on them and see it. So right here we should be able to see courses. So let's say test students. We're going to add the age of 30 and add that student to primary 1 and add. And same thing again, we have an error, but right here we don't have an error. So let me just kind of figure things out. And I don't know why we are having that problem. So let's kind of try this again. I'm going to add a non-student, and we have age of 20. Then for the student, the courses are not showing again. Right here we have the courses. Then okay, started showing. So we have a non-student, age of 30, and hopefully things should work well. Okay, so this was some students I was creating, trying to make sure everything was properly working fine. I'm going to click on this student and try to get rid of that student, and that student gets away. So you have the full template for you on the GitHub repository. But if you wish to learn about how to create a full stack application like React using Redux and also creating your own server, this is a perfect tutorial for you. So guys, it's kind of been very long since I did a tutorial, I know, but hopefully this time around I'm going to be making some tutorials which are going to be very educative and very nice. But if you've come this far, please, one way to support this channel for free is to make sure you hit that like button and also the subscribe button. And let's say guys, on the next part of our video is going to be very exciting. And can I say now, bye bye and see you next time.